we can get our counterparts, the ones that we see every day, that we touch on the shoulder, just to not be ignorant, we can overcome that wave, right? But right now, you got a whole bunch of wealthy people who's selling poor people snake oil.
For sure.
Well, it's kind of like, how do I overcome that? Because when I'm talking to my friend who makes $100,000 a year, and he feels like Donald Trump got my back because I was able to get this extra $12,000 worth of taxes. Like, you talking about that, but I ain't never seen prices, when they go up, they don't come back down. So when the products that they sell now goes up, even if inflation is fixed and everything gets better, so to speak, a lot of these companies are not going to take that price point back. They're going to keep it.
That's a good
It's
perspective.
not
I
something you
think in
see
a
as
lot of
work.
ways that's
Yeah, like that's just not how it works.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to The Quiet Loud, where we take the headlines and we break them down, connect the dots, and explain to you what they mean. Tonight, I got my brother with me joining The Quiet Loud for his very first time, Therrell Lyon, my co-host of Room 518, is currently dropping episodes here on The Quiet Loud channel every Monday night, all right? So, like I said, Therrell, he's not a politician or a pundit. You know, he's a family man, a father, a taxpaying voter, and he's living through this every single day, just like you and me. So, without further ado, Therrell, jump in, man. What's going on with you, brother? How are you?
Man, hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate that intro.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, nothing's been going on much. It is definitely a privilege to be on The Quiet Loud. Guys, I've been waiting for him to call me up to the big leagues, to be honest with you. No, but I'm always interested in what you bring. I enjoyed the interview with your guy, Toyin Marshall. I enjoyed listening to that. And I've listened to all of them. I always try to catch you. Usually Thursday nights, I'm gonna listen between Thursday night, Friday mornings. You know, I'm happy to be here as a regular old Joe that kind of, dips and dabs. I'm making sure to follow enough so that I know how to protect my family. So, we're good.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
enjoying, man.
And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on. Not just because, we're brothers long time going back and we have this special bond of being college roommates, and not only all the backstory that we go into about how, you are an integral part of my family. I would not have met my wife if not for you. So but that's the reason why we're here, because I know you. We go all the way back, and nobody has as real relationship and friendship as you and I have. And so to be able to take some of these issues and break them down and talk about them the way people talk about them. You
Yeah.
game to get into this?
Yes, sir. Let's go, man. We
All
ain't
right.
always perfect. I don't always agree with you, but I agree with you most times.
Hey, we're not here to 100% line up, because everybody doesn't do that. We got people in our own families that we don't agree with 100%, and sometimes in a large way we don't agree with some of the things that people close to us say and believe. So that's perfectly fine. We're gonna get into it. Some points will line up. Maybe we'll even have a kind of a debate here, and that's cool too. I'm all good with it. So let's start with what people are actually feeling right now. We know out on these streets that gas prices are rising and grocery prices are still high, and rent and mortgage rates are not really coming down. Healthcare and childcare are unaffordable for so many. And now you got, these global tensions of this war happening right now, and that's affecting the way that the gas prices and everything else is happening right now, which is pushing things even higher. When we have some kind of a conflict and then we have to spend all this money on defense and this, that, and the other. And the numbers reflect in the polling that the economy is a top concern amongst, most citizens and voters out here today. So let's just forget politics for a second, man. What's happening out on these streets, man? How do you think people are feeling? What are folks saying around you? And how are you feeling?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the average American, if you have any type of common sense, then you're not happy with what's going on. I mean, we've talked about this on 518, just the way things have become more expensive over the last 20 years, let alone the last 3 or 4, let alone the last 5. We're talking about things doubling, tripling in the last 2 or 3 years. So that's kind of the problem, man. I'm a hardworking man. I've owned my own business. I currently work back in corporate now, and just to look at the struggles of finance that we deal with, I'm not wealthy, man. I'm not I work every day, bro. I had to to go back into corporate because my business insurance was not gonna cover my daughter's medical costs. Like, it just wasn't. Now, my fiance has a corporate job as well. She makes pretty good money. But even in that, those kickbacks from the insurance, man, we needed 2 insurance policies to kinda cover the slack, let alone what we have to pay for still out of our pockets. But I've watched medication go up on January 1st from from 20 to $25 every time I had to go pick it up to $700 every time I had to go pick it up. $3,000. So those are really big jumps that you gotta come up with out your pocket. You know, um, it's been rough seeing that. It's been rough seeing the gas prices. Our president ran on the fact that gas prices would be low. I never understood the whole argument with eggs. It wasn't a big thing. I'm like, yo, eggs, they're eggs. We're making a big deal of eggs. If somebody can
Okay.
distract you with eggs, they can distract you with anything. You know what I'm saying? So those
Yes, absolutely.
distractions that we fell into, or those who chose to fall into, fell into, that's kind of where I'm like, are they experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing? Are they as disappointed as I'm disappointed? Because I didn't care about egg prices. I cared about medical costs. I cared about character. And I think that's where we're looking at a lack of character in our government right now. This it's kind
Mm.
of tough to pay attention to. So that's where I'm at. And that's why I really enjoy listening to the quiet loud, because you are approaching the part that nobody wants to talk about all the time, and you're saying it out loud, and it needs to be heard.
Well, I appreciate that, man. So do you think, speaking of those folks who let eggs and other distractions throw them off course, how do you think these people are feeling now? Do you think that they are doubling down? I mean, we see that some folks are like, because Trump, for one, has changed his tune. You talked about during the campaign, he was saying gas prices are going to be so low. They're going to be low. We're going to, forget all about how bad it was under Biden. You know what I mean? And now gas
Yeah.
prices are up higher than they were 2 or 3 years ago with no sign of slowing down. And his tune has changed to, well, this isn't so bad. I thought they'd be a lot higher. This isn't so bad right here. Oh, I think we could take a little bit of short term, blah, blah, blah. So are you noticing that do they seem like they're going with him, the folks who were confused by that message before? Do you think they're going with him, or are they starting to break? What are you
It
thinking is
it
happening out there? What
it
are you seeing?
feels like we have a person throwing pitches at you like a salesman, right? Just throwing pitches at
Mhm.
you.
Okay.
If I say it this way, they're gonna mess with it, they're gonna buy it. And
Mm.
that's what we're dealing with, bro. We're dealing with a whole bunch of people that are choosing to be okay with something as long as you say it and make it sound nice. I do believe if you really broke and you really ain't got no money, now that I'm not broke. We're not broke. We live comfortable, but it still affects us. If you are poor, or what is considered poor in the United States, if you make less than $32,000 a year and you live in the United States of America and you still choose to back Donald Trump, or I don't like to use Donald Trump itself. And I told you this. I think right now we're dealing with the government issue, because the only way we get here is if there's some type of issue with our government system right now
Okay.
that is
Say
failing,
more.
right? I've talked about the fact that he was even able to run again shows that we have flaws in the system, right? The
Mhm.
fact that you have a whole party that was willing to placate and get behind a person who and support a person who's clearly a criminal, clearly responsible for some atrocities that I'm not gonna that we don't even have to discuss for real. That even if even if those things are just questionable, how did you run for president and become president of the United States? It's not whether you're guilty or not. The fact that you were is questionable. Like, I couldn't imagine having a president who we could say, "Oh yeah, he used to hang out with a drug dealer every day.
Right.
He was best friends
Right.
with one of the
Okay.
biggest
I
drug
see where you're
dealers
going.
in the world." You see what I'm saying? But for some reason, we allowed in the current system to get to this point. Now, I've told you, I don't feel like the Democrats did everything right
And we
in the
agree on that.
last 12 years to kind of help get us past this point. It's a lot of people that doesn't trust the system because hell, insurance was still weren't skyrocketing like they are now, but they were going up when we had Democratic president, we had Republican president. So we've had issues that needed to be discussed, but he's such a symptom of issues
Hmm.
that we were able to let someone that is completely corrosive become a part of our government because of issues. Now, like I always say, it feels like he ran off of racism
Hmm.
and he won a lot of votes off of racism. I remember telling you that I felt like he was able to get where he is because he know how to pitch to all the folks that probably wouldn't even go vote. You know, he knew how to pitch to folks that was probably like, man, screw this country. I don't like either side. Oh,
Hmm.
he sounded like he's going to stand for us. I want to go with it, you know. But this is a man that is an opportunist. He's going to do whatever it takes to win. How do we get to a place where we even allow this type of person to be in a seat to run for president?
Yeah. You're right. And we didn't get him the first time. That was the real reason, okay? Because yeah, he did a lot of violations and during that first term and I knew with him going in, I mean, shoot, the person he ran against, his opponent, had been saying it the whole time. For everything that everybody says about Hillary Clinton, she telegraphed his entire presidency, bro. She said he's going to do this. He is going to be somebody who is very corrupt. He is going to be on the side of authoritarians and dictators like Kim Jong Un and Putin. And, you know, he will be used as a puppet by these people because all it takes is a little bit of flattery and a little bit of money, and he will do exactly what you want him to do. And he got into office and he did just that. And he accepted help to get that office, he committed a bunch of crimes. And I remember saying that he is going to end up in jail after this. And then we end up with a new president who then I think trying to honor a man who was supposed to be a Supreme Court justice in Merrick Garland. His nomination was blocked, his confirmation was blocked over and over again when Obama was president, and he had nominated him to be a Supreme Court justice. And so I think Biden throwing him a bone said, "Hey, sir, here's a job. You can be my attorney general." And in all of our eyes, bro, you got one job. Your job is to get this
What?
guy. Get this guy. And so year one, he does nothing. Year two, we get a couple of investigations. Year three, they decide they want to charge him. What are we doing here? Everybody's
Well,
screaming, bro, you are wasting time right now. This guy, we got him dead to rights on so many different crimes. Bring him down. Oh, we don't want to make it seem political. So then you wait all the way until the primaries really get cooking to start. What we all know that he's going to do is declare his candidacy again so that he can say, this is political persecution. You guys are just coming after me because I'm the front runner here in this election. And they were dumb enough and walked into this trap. And that is how you end up with him being able to run for office after being a convicted felon, somebody who is supposed to be questionable on whether or not he get a vote in some states. You know what I'm saying? This
yeah.
man has now run for president again. So yeah, I'm standing there right with you. That is not something that we are going to argue about. I believe that we shouldn't be here right now. And I will go you one further and say that I can't in good conscience vote for anybody who will not say right up front that they coming for him. And everybody who was with him. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Because we can't have this, that we keep falling due to this amnesty stuff, man. We keep letting people say, all right, going back as far as the Civil War. We keep all right, all right, we'll let y'all come back, but no funny business. And then
Well,
it's funny business, and here we go. It trickles all the way up to here. Those folks should have faced consequences a
but
long
I'll
time ago,
but
and we
I'll say
wouldn't be
this.
here.
I can't vote for a person if you're not coming for all big business in the United States at this point.
Okay, that's a good one up that I will support.
The reason that we are dealing with the financial struggles that we're really dealing with, the strains that we're dealing with, is because of the fact that we've allowed what is it, Citizens United?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh.
that we've allowed these super PACs to go unaddressed. We've allowed lobbyists to get completely out of control. So again, I'm just your average everyday guy, but I notice when a bribe is a bribe. So you mean to tell
Right?
me all these lawyers and these politicians who's supposed to at least have some type of back in law, like you've seen enough to know when you get somebody getting paid. Like we shouldn't be
The problem
dealing
is
with
a lot of those guys, they're getting something too. They're getting a cut of it as
yeah,
well, whether they be Democrats or Republicans. A lot of these people are enriching
exactly.
themselves, and so they have skin in the game that won't allow them to step up with some moral clarity, like we're talking about, and say, "No, I can't be a part of this." You know why? Because if they do, they'll be taking money out of their own pockets. And those people, I agree with you, they don't deserve to be there because they're not working toward the public good. We
And
need
that's where
people
we are. That's what we
that
are. We're working
yeah,
we're working
yeah.
for the it
I mean, at
seems
the
that
very least, yeah, at the very least, you know, we can take it back to a place where, if you're not saying you want to, if you have a problem with taxing the rich the way that they need to be taxed to catch up to what they have been missing all of these
yeah,
years, then just take them back, roll back, um, trickle down economics of the last 40 years, roll it back, pull their taxes back up to over 20%. And at least let them be, they'll still be able to create jobs. These people have made billions upon billions of dollars. People are now racing to see who the first trillionaire is going to be now. Trillionaire, bro.
oh,
This is
and
getting
it's looking like
ridiculous.
the
So
guy
so yeah.
who helped buy the presidency. It's looking like the guy who helped buy the presidency.
Yeah,
This dude is worth
absolutely.
over
Absolutely.
$800 billion right now. When we
Yeah,
were
yeah.
kids, if you were worth 45 billion, it seemed like a lot. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's worth 45
That was
billion dollars.
so much money. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
come on, that's more money than some people will ever know in their entire lives. $45 million. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So, yeah, absolutely, man. So what do you
So
think? Like I
what are
said
we
before,
protecting them from?
do you think those people still experiencing the type of economic and financial hardships that they were? I mean, it's even more exacerbated now. It's worse now. What is keeping them still on Trump's side?
You know what's keeping them on his side because they still getting money in their pockets. For them, you know, we don't like to talk about it, but some of this war stuff and I've had a good friend to tell me this, like, he's like, yo, anytime Trump does something that's crazy, I move stock. I invest in here. I sell this. I pay attention to what he's saying. And it's a whole lot of wealthy people doing that.
Yes.
My guy, he's not rich, but he's well off. And he does this every month. He's like, dude, I'm making a lot of money off of listening to the stuff that they talk about. Just
Yeah,
whether
people
it's
were actually trading on the idea of whether or not they would actually even engage in this war, or whether the negotiations would work, or what if he'll actually, send troops in, or whatever the case is. They're making micro bets as if, who'll get the first down first or something like that, which honestly I think is completely disgusting. Just my personal belief, everything
how
shouldn't
he
be attached to gambling, and you shouldn't be, I think that's just a bad
no,
faith thing, regardless. No disrespect to your friend.
no, his whole thing no, because his whole thing is, look, I'm not betting. His whole thing is like the stock market goes is as war goes. If you invest in defense systems or defense AI,
Sure.
you're gonna make a lot of money. He's like, dude, I've been moving money to stocks that kind of push weapon sales and things of that nature. And he's
Yeah,
like,
but that kind of doesn't, don't you think that kind of hits up at what I was saying before, even about I said, even Democrats, they have skin in the game that affects them
yeah,
from being able to say
yeah,
no because they are enriching themselves in that way. So wouldn't you be
exactly.
disinclined to vote for a better president because they might be more inclined to take away this thing that you're trying to move money and make money off of?
Well, that's the reason why. That's the reason. The truth is, man, there's more poor people in this country than it is rich people. You
Of
know, it's,
course.
it's more middle class and poor people. So if we can
Hmm.
just get them to not be ignorant, if we can get our counterparts, the ones that we see every day, that we touch on the shoulder, just to not be ignorant, we can overcome that wave, right? But right now, you got a whole bunch of wealthy people who's selling poor people snake oil.
For sure.
That's what's happening. And so it's kind of like, how do I overcome that? Because when I'm talking to my friend who makes $100,000 a year, and he feels like Donald Trump got my back because I was able to get this extra $12,000 worth of taxes. I'm like,
Mhm.
bro, but your medical expenses, if something happens to you tomorrow, you got to have surgery. It's $150,000 more than it would have been, and that's got to come. A lot of that's got to come out your pockets, no matter how good your insurance is, bro. Like you talking about that, but I ain't never seen prices when they go up. They don't come back down. So when the products that they sell now goes up, even if inflation is fixed and everything gets better, so to speak, a lot of these companies are not going to take that price point back. They're going to
Hmm.
keep it.
That's a good
That's
perspective.
just not
I
something you
think in a
see as
lot of
work.
ways that's
Yeah, like that's just not how it works. So it's kind of like, dude, that 12,000, that extra 12,000 you made that year. First of all, it wasn't for you. You just happened to find a loophole so that you could get that 12,000. That was really for a billionaire and a person that made more than $50 million a year, but you just get the chance to eat from that. So it's like we got to convince those people who are close to our tax brackets to understand that, hey, look, your the decisions that you make matter.
so let me ask then, because you talked a little bit about the conflict of war a couple times. You've talked about it in the effect that your friend was kind of watching how it affected the markets, and you
Yeah.
talked a little bit about how it affected our economy as well. So let's layer on top of that. Let's talk a little bit about the war and kind of how we got here. I mean, right now they're saying that there's a some kind of a ceasefire we're supposed to be in the middle of. I mean, but at the same time, you still got strikes happening in the Middle East region there with negotiations where they brought their experts in and we sent JD Vance and the president's son-in-law and a dude who knows about real estate to go and talk
Bro,
about
it is
foreign
crazy.
policy. We didn't even
That's
send our
crazy.
Secretary of State, our top diplomat,
No, we
which
did
makes
not.
me feel like it was already bound for disaster when you do something like that. You're sending people in bad faith who have no idea about what's going on, but either way, negotiations have seemingly stalled, and now there's this American blockade around the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz, which has become a huge focal point in this war, being that it's so weird because we've heard reports that Trump was advised that if he did this, that was going to be one of the first and largest plays that Iran was going to take, that they were going to go and take control of the strait. But he says we're winning. He says we're winning now, even as more troops are mobilizing and getting ready to go, God knows where, and the objectives have changed almost daily. And the markets, like your friend said, have been reacting to every headline. Every time he goes in and says something, every time he goes in and does something, makes some kind of declarative about what's going to happen next, or we don't need their help, we need their help. We don't need the straight, we do need the straight. And so what do you think about the status of this war, how it started, being that at first they were talking about them being a state sponsor of terrorism. And then it was that had been always the main goal. And we know, Iran's no angels. Nobody's sitting up here talking about them being perfect or that, this is a great run country and and these people are moral and good people. We're not saying that at all. What we are saying is you're shifting your story, just like you were saying before, as a salesman throwing pitches, right? And so the
Yeah.
first pitch was when largest state sponsor terror didn't work. It was supposedly their adjacent to their nuclear capability, which we supposedly obliterated last summer, which we wouldn't have had to do if they hadn't destroyed Obama's JCPOA, his nuclear deal there. So not only did we not obliterate it because that was the reason why he said they had to go back, but right before that, remember, the people of Iran were protesting and some of them were being killed, much like people were being killed by ICE here or, and hurt by ICE here, which was so ironic to hear him say, if anyone over there is killed, we're going to go over there, when people over here were being killed and he wasn't doing anything about it except for calling them domestic terrorists. Now, it went from that to nuclear to, their ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missiles capabilities and all that. It's changing every day. So what do you think about this as far as everything you've heard from the beginning up to where we are now? And what are people saying around the hood, man? and around you, not just to say you're a hood dude, but what are people saying
I
around
mean,
our neighborhood and in the you know,
you're good, man. I
yeah.
get where you're coming from. If I'm being honest, bro, we're all everybody checking their pockets, dude. Like, cause that's what we're looking at, brother. We're looking at how's this affecting my daily life? You know,
Mm-hmm.
realistically, why are we fighting for another country? It feels like,
Hmm.
we got little brothers, my next door neighbors in the Air Force. I got another friend that's in the military with me that works with me, but he's also in the military, so he's going overseas right now, and I told him I sent him a text message like I'm praying for you, bro, because I don't want you. You wouldn't be dying for America right now.
Hmm. Say more.
Well, because right now this is a situation that developed from issues with Israel. It wasn't
Mm.
our situation. It wasn't something
Mm-hmm.
that we decided to do till they decided to do it. We weren't
Right.
we weren't fighting, we weren't defending anything. We were becoming the aggressor. Like in our lifetimes, America hasn't been the aggressor, but one other time that I can remember where we were the aggressor. And that's
Mm.
before our time.
Right.
Anything else that we've ever did has been small military installations to go stop something. It was a campaign, it wasn't a war. And so now you could correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm like I said, I don't follow
I
this
mean, yeah, there's
totally.
there's been there's been other times. I mean, people will arguably say Iraq was an unjust war, but people, I think a lot of folks were um in limbo on that one just because so many people were raw based on what had happened in 9/11. But
Well, yeah, see, and,
and the
and that
details had been extremely murky on, who had done what, and so I think people were kind of standing in the middle and kind of wrapping their arms around the flag and everything else in that point. So it's hard to
I agree with you. I
blame
agree
the
with you.
average person from where they stood, but if you were a politician that you had, access to intelligence community data and this, that, and the other, I don't think you should have been on the side of taking us into that war. But I take you at your I understand your point completely. Um yeah, I mean, people every day, we're wondering how can we spend at this point now over $50 billion on an engagement that we weren't supposed to be in. At the same time, we're telling people we can't afford to pay for school lunch and breakfast for our kids in public schools, and we can't do childcare or early pre-K for anybody, or we can't do, health care for folks, but we can spend money on these things,
We couldn't
on a
figure out how to.
conflict that
Not
so
only
many
could we
other
not keep it,
presidents said no to over the last 50 years, and this guy, you know,
bro.
through
We are in the
flattery or
biggest
whatever it
deficit.
was, got us into this war. You said what?
We're already in the biggest deficit that we've ever been in. We're
Yes,
watching
sir.
other countries back other forms of money now.
Yes, sir.
Systematically, it's happening, and then systemically, it's happening, and then we go and do this like at this time, bro. It is so many things America needs to be doing to strengthen America, right?
Hmm.
Like if we're gonna be in
And they're
debt,
supposed to be the
yeah,
America First people.
yeah, that's my point, man. Like if you saying like, because the original thing was Donald Trump was saying, "We're not going. I'm not going into no wars." Now Harris and Hillary said that was going to happen. It was
Hmm.
two different campaigns that said
Oh
that
yeah.
was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Harris did
this
a
is
great
not.
job too. I did not mention, I know I said Hillary before
Yeah,
just to put a cap on that, but she
yeah,
said it in that first campaign. Biden called it in his campaign, and Kamala Harris came right through and said the same thing. She called it,
yeah.
all the way
She
down,
not
everything
called
that he would
everything that
do.
he's done. Like
Everything that he would do. But you know
she,
what? If you opened up Project 2025, you'd be able to do the same thing because they're running that playbook. They're running
yeah,
that playbook, but continue.
like she. So when you look at all of those things, man, the totality of everything that has happened,
Hmm.
like we are losing so much money. Like it's one thing to say that, okay, yeah, we don't like Medicare for all. We want to kill, we want to get rid of it. We need something better, so to speak, which was nothing better at all. To say that we need something better, I understand. Say that you need something better and then show me what that is.
Right.
But then
Yeah.
to
Let's
all of
not
a
kill
sudden,
the thing first, right?
Yeah, let's not get rid of it. Let's not run it over with a
Well,
truck
see,
and then be like,
the point was that they don't believe in it. They don't believe that it's not that we don't believe Medicare for all was not good enough or that the ACA isn't good enough. We don't believe excuse me, don't believe in paying for it at all. They don't believe in social programs like healthcare, like education, which is why they've dissected and
yeah.
broken down the education department in ways that I don't know if we're going to be able to, spring back from immediately.
Well, no, I think, and this is coming from a man who has a 17-year-old in school. I have a
Mhm.
10-year-old.
Mhm.
The education system, and you're a teacher, the education system to get us to a place where we can compete with the world right now, the government not only has to put up money in it, and I mean big money in it, bro. It's gonna take us 15 years for it to make sense again. It's gonna take 10 to 15 years for because we pretty much, bro, we've burnt about 8 years worth of good teaching from right before the pandemic to through the pandemic to now, where we are missing the mark on the way that we're educating our kids right now. And the truth is, we're losing great teachers to other jobs because they're just like, I can't afford to take care of everything. But I can go do this and make $80,000 a year, but I can't do that as a teacher.
Mhm.
I need $100,000 a year. Realistically, with the money that we're putting in the war, we'll be able to take care of teachers for the next 5 years. And like if the government was just to help each state take care of education instead of pulling away from education. Every teacher in our country should be getting a $20,000 raise to
Yeah.
stay.
Hey,
Yeah,
they should be
we don't want too
everybody
many.
should be getting if you're working a public job right now, you should definitely be getting money, but I will say that the getting a pay raise, but I will say that teachers need to be at the top of that list because for all the work that you have to do, all of the things that come along with that and everything it took you to get there and to have to sustain it, it takes continuing education. It takes people having money of their own in the game to, increase and they're just not getting it. And they have been at the bottom of the totem pole to be doing such an important job. That career, these people should be getting paid like doctors. You know what I
Man,
mean?
look,
And they're not.
two things have
And
to
it's a
happen.
shame.
Two things has to happen because it's just not teaching by itself. You can't keep a teacher if you have mental health issues inside of the homes. They've cut the mental health programs have been cut, family assistance programs have been cut. You have a lot of kids losing their minds. Their parents don't know what to do, don't know how to feed them. SNAP has been cut. So you're dealing with a whole bunch of issues, and guess who ends up dealing with that? The teachers. The teachers, these kids come to school and teachers have to deal with that too. So we gotta first make sure teachers get more money. Then we have to go back in and fix the mental health situations because we you had used to have a lot of mental health programs that was done through subsidized money from the government. That has been almost completely cut out, man. Family assistance program, can't think of the name, but you're missing all of those key points that helps provide an environment that's conducive to learning for teachers. When you got kids willing to come to school and completely cut a fool because nobody has the parent back, this parent has to work 3 jobs too. So this child is at the house during the day by themselves. You got 2 parents, but now each parent got 2 jobs. You
Yeah.
got one parent, that parent's working 3 jobs. So who's raising kids if we're all at work? And that ain't doing it. That's not gonna cut it. Like we cannot keep putting money into wars, period, right now. It's just like he said, "Oh, we're in the middle of a war. We can't afford to do this." No, you got it backwards, Mr. President. You got it backwards right now.
Absolutely backwards.
We gotta take care of home first because we're about to have a big gap in generational performance right now. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's a
Well, we're
lot of
falling
countries.
behind globally in a big way. Yeah.
Exactly.
In so many ways as well too. It's not
Oh my
even,
God.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, you're right. That's you just said it though. We're falling behind globally in all of those ways from building. I mean, from from building, from the IT, the tech industry. We're going to fall behind because we don't have. If we only bringing people over here from another country to do what we need to do here, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
America
Well,
don't have factories like that.
yeah, 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 and well,
You
we,
know what I
and
mean?
that's the thing that was a real joke too. Just another thing that what was a lie told, that he was gonna save industry and bring back jobs from China and this, that, and the other. I mean, the man's own products that he sell are all made in China, so that was just one more lie being sold. So let's get into. Or do you want to say something?
Yeah, but my whole thing is why even worry about bringing industries back? We're supposed to be leading the evolution of industry.
Right.
That's how we got here. We were
Yeah.
the first big factories. We were the why are we trying to
Yeah.
go backwards? Let
Yeah.
them have that. If they good at factories, let them do it. We need to continue to educate our kids so that we're the leaders in space, that we're the leaders in
In
tech
all new
then.
technologies, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
in
hear you,
all the new
I hear you.
technologies, bro.
Yeah. I do think, though, that we should have more made in America. Now, I will say,
No, I agree. I agree.
but in a lot of ways we still do. Like, where we are here in North Carolina has always been like a furniture capital, but that stuff is getting more and more expensive because of materials and this, that, and the other, and the tariff wars and everything else
Yeah.
and so that's what I was saying, which was leading me to another space kind of politically, because you have brought up so many of these different campaign promises that were made by Trump both times, to make all these things better, to bring industry back, to bring our country back, and this, that, and the other. And he says that we're so hot right now, but I feel like that a lot of his own base is starting to fracture now. And I'm wondering if if you're starting to see some of those cracks, not from the outside, because a lot of us have already been peeped on what he's been doing for a long time, but from inside his own base. I mean, I don't know if you saw in the last couple of weeks, but you had folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene for
She
this
been out
last
there.
term has been all over him.
Hey,
But
she been on
Marjorie
his
Taylor
tail feather,
Greene,
bro.
she's been on him. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Candace Owens, who I have no love for whatsoever, but Alex Jones, people like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, and all kind of those conservative MAGA podcast bros and all those stuff have been publicly pushing back on some of the things that he's been doing in terms of this war and other bits of foreign policy, in terms of how he engages with our allies and this and that, and the crazy spending that he's been doing, and these crazy social media posts that he has been making lately. And so last week he actually by name went after a lot of these people. And so the fracture is actually happening. And then you see folks like JD Vance, who has been tied to all kind of, he was attached to these Iran negotiations, which have gone bad. He has been involved in endorsements that didn't go bad. All of these things that it looks like Trump sending them on dummy missions. Yeah, go over here to Iran and work on this. Try to get Matt Gaetz confirmed to be the attorney general. You don't see an attorney general Matt Gaetz, do you? He sent him most recently to Hungary for their elections, because you had Viktor Orban over there, who was a Trumper over there. He was like the beginning of the model that they're trying to play out. He was over there in power for 16 years. JD Vance went over, did a stump speech for him, a big old rally where he called Donald Trump on the phone during the middle of the rally and everything. And Trump didn't even answer the phone the first time. I mean, completely embarrassing this man over and over again. And now he's supposedly, Viktor Orban lost in a landslide too.
Yeah, he
And
just conceded defeat. What, like
he
2 3
did,
days
yeah,
ago?
yeah, to a
Yeah, I
guy
saw
who
that.
broke off from the party he was in and ran against him as opposition. And now JD Vance is supposedly the fraud czar now. And historically, what we've seen, if you go back to Greg Bovino and Kristi Noem and Pamela Bundy, when he starts putting you out there out front, on stuff that he himself wouldn't go out and do, means historically, when you get pulled in close like that, you're going to end up getting fired or embarrassed when these things keep not going right. Now, you're doing this to your vice president. Not to mention, you do realize he got ghosted by Erica Kirk the other day at a Turning Point USA rally, at one of her rallies. They were
Yeah, I saw
playing
that.
to a big arena, bro, and this thing was empty. It was like an eighth full, and she, according to reports, at the last minute hit him up and was like, I can't even go. You know what I'm saying? Because she knew that this thing, the ticket sales was low and it wasn't going to look good. So now you go on another dummy mission. It just seems like he gets no respect, and you have these other people fracturing on the other side. So what are y'all making of? What are you making of all this tension that we're seeing from inside of the party and the players that helped to bring him to power?
This is just for me looking in, right? Because I saw the Turning Point USA deal. I actually looked at some of that commentary from JD Vance in that particular.
Mm-hmm.
But what it looks like to me is the reason you're having so many fractures is because you have a person that's, again, opportunistic. When you deal with a person that's opportunistic, then they say whatever they need to say to get the result that they look for. But at some point, this is not selling a car, bro. You can say anything and sell a car. When them people gone, that's their car. Or this is running a country. So when you say stuff about complex issues, at some point that stuff rises to the top, and you gotta address it. And that's what we're dealing with our president right now. It's a lot of things that he said. The reason you have a person like Candace Owens and Alex Jones, which Alex Jones was the last person I thought was going to like jump ship,
And
and he kind
Alex
of got
Jones
off
is
that.
calling for the 25th Amendment now.
Yeah, exactly. I
He's
just saw
calling
that,
for the removal. Yeah.
and that's crazy to me. Like
Right.
him, I didn't think Marjorie Taylor Greene would
Right.
turn,
Right.
but I didn't think she was going to turn on him. But when it came to those files, she was serious about that, and
Serious
he
about those files.
And so, like, the things that and what he said, "I'm gonna make sure those files get released." That was the
Mm-hmm.
first thing, right? That was him with her. "I'm gonna make sure we don't go to war." Guess who don't wanna go to war? Alex Jones and Candace. Like, so they'll stand with you on some of that other bull, but they're not gonna stand on the hard line things.
Right.
Like, and
Seems
those are
that
the
way.
things that you lied about. It's okay if you lied about getting grocery prices down. Okay, we can deal with that. But we can't deal with you going to war when that's the one thing that we stood on. We can't deal with you like allowing a list of pedophiles, a list of people who are corrupt throughout the world go
Yeah.
unchecked. You the president of the United States. Like, so that's the reason why his party is falling where it's falling, man.
Yeah. Do you think also that they are starting to work themselves around to the idea that he is just unwell and unfit to be president as well? Because I know that Candace Owens is hinting at that too, saying it's time to put grandpa in the home. Are they just getting ready to finally say the thing that needed to be said? Now, they trolled Biden for
And that's
4
why I don't
years,
think they're
which
gonna say it.
we
That's
knew,
why I don't think they're gonna
but they
say it.
are saying it. They are saying it. I mean, but they're not. Not everybody is saying that they're ready for. I mean, Alex Jones has said that he is in decline. Candace Owens, Tucker, all of these ones are starting to say it. Now, we're not hearing his supporters in a large way start to defect in this way. But I mean, what could be? What that could only be what happens next, right? When all of the other people are now starting to say we can't support this guy anymore. We have to get him out of there. And I don't believe that their reasoning is the same reason as our reasoning, but I can support the
Any
fracture
reason,
that is happening. I can sit back and support, but
man.
that just makes me nervous about we've seen this man accept foreign help in elections before. We've seen him do anything to win. We've seen him say that he would only accept election results in the event that he was the winner. And we've seen him, go as far as he could go, keep documents that didn't belong to him. Heck, we've seen just in recent weeks that raid on the Fulton County Elections Office where Tulsi
So
Gabbard,
so
the
ridiculous,
DNI, was
bro.
down there taking
So
those
ridiculous.
documents from the 2020 election, not even just the one that we just had 2 years ago, but the 2020 election where he tried to get the Georgia vote overturned by asking Brad Raffensperger to find him these 11,780 votes. So what did that feel like to have Georgia, a place that we're born and raised, you and me both, Atlanta boys, to have, you know, your election systems, your voter data, your data, our family, our friends' data
Yeah, this is our city.
compromised in such a way.
I'm gonna tell you what, I felt like it was a slap in the face. I felt like it was clearly an attack, a personal attack, and we could see that, we're not stupid. Let's be honest with you. Atlanta has always had a black mayor. Fulton County has always been a predominantly black place, man. So to make it seem like it was anything but what it was in Atlanta, no, no. If that would have been Athens and he would have lost, I get it, but Atlanta historically has always had a black mayor. It's Atlanta, bro. Like, so
Yeah.
that's how we all felt.
So you feel like the consensus down there is that he came toward Fulton County because Fulton County is where we live, is where our community has a stronghold in Georgia. So if you can challenge and get that largest kind of voting block knocked down, then he has a stronger chance of being able to prevail in the future. Is that what I feel like I hear you saying?
Well, not necessarily. The truth is,
Or is it just saying that black
we
people are
still have a
fraudulent and they cheat?
that's exactly that's that's the way he wants it to feel like.
Yeah.
But no, not just the black vote, the white vote here is still Democratic leaning.
Mm-hmm.
When you've been around our culture for long enough, our culture isn't what they sell to the media. It's not.
Percent.
Again, guys, excuse my congestion, but it's not what they sell to the world. It's just not true. We have black lawyers, black doctors. We have a lot of wealthy black people and white people that work together in Georgia, in the metro area. I think we live in one of the most unique cities in the world because
Agreed.
politicians and legislators do work together, and they are very committed to helping each other. So if Atlanta was to, like, say, flip to Republican, it will probably be because the Republican really deserved it.
You
You
think?
know? Yeah.
I think
I think
that's a heck of a thing to say. And I will say this. I will say this, okay? Because Brad Raffensperger, who was Secretary of State during the 2020 election when Trump, the guy who Trump made that call to say,
yeah,
find me these votes, dude was a Republican. And he straight up said, get off my phone. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I have to give credit when credit is due. And dude was a Republican and Trump made that call and he put pressure on him. And Brad Raffensperger said no. This thing is locked. This
If
vote
we
was safe. It was not fraudulent, and he said no. And I think that's the reason why we have seen increased talk of fraud writ large in our voting systems. And you're starting to hear stuff about, citizenship and making sure we're checking people's citizenship. And you've had increased ICE. All of that stuff is about decreasing the voter electorate, in my point of view. If you're taking these people out, first of all, undocumented people aren't voting. That's just not a thing that's happening anywhere in the
because
country.
if
It's
you
just not a
undocumented
thing.
and you get caught, you're not trying to get up out of here, so you leaving it
Right.
alone.
Exactly. There's just not one thing it's just not a thing that's happening. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's not.
when they say that, that's already a lie, but they use that so that they can go after anybody. Remember, another one of his campaign promises that he did make good on, sadly, was to go after undocumented Americans. Now, he said he was going to go after criminals, but he didn't. It hasn't been, it's been anybody with brown skin is in danger. Heck, anybody is in danger that he wants to put in danger. But now we have this SAVE Act, which is requiring, citizen proof of citizenship just to register to vote, meaning your license is not going to be enough anymore to get registered. You're going to have some kind of birth certificate or a passport or something like that, which a lot of people don't have passports. A lot of people
No.
don't even have their original birth certificates. And even if you do, if you've had something like a name change or something where your name and your documents don't exactly add up 100%, that you may be slashed from the voter rolls. That to me is voter fraud.
It
Trying to
is.
find ways to get people from being able to exercise their right to vote, to me, is voter fraud.
But that's because when you've already used your opportunistic lie to make a whole bunch of people that should have never voted for you in the first place feel like they had a leg up by voting for you. Now we got to figure out how to cut them out. Like, so we got to figure out how to get even
That's a great
more
point. That's a great
minority
point. So
votes.
what you're saying, what I hear you saying is a lot of Latino voters
Yeah, yeah,
gave votes
yeah.
to Donald Trump thinking that I would be safe if I vote for this. And then these folks are
They're
still
not
being
sa-
rounded up. Their families and friends are still being
so what do
rounded
you
up. Is
attack
that what I hear you
next?
saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So what do you attack next? You attack the fact that some of elderly now you gotta look now you gotta attack the minority vote in a different way. So you're gonna make sure elderly people are not able to vote. How many old people know where their birth certificates are?
I don't know,
Let's
but
be
they
honest.
vote like mad though.
They
That's
vote.
our most consistent
That's a
voting block
big
is seniors. Yeah.
exactly because they understand the privilege of voting.
Hmm.
So you're gonna lose a lot of that vote. You're gonna lose if they get everything they want.
Yeah, and especially with the threat of sometimes he's threatened ICE to be at the polls, and you know what? Anybody that's brown, heck, not even anybody that's brown, people who are intimidated by law enforcement standing out in public places,
Thank you.
that would be something, and they know that. That's why they would put them in our neighborhoods because in places that have been historically over policed, right?
Yeah,
Put these
yeah.
people out in your neighborhoods, and you're like, you know what? I ain't got time for this.
I'm not gonna deal with
And
that.
that
I'm not
turns
gonna deal
people
with that.
off from going out and exercising their right. So it just seems like that's what people need to be guarded against right now because he's trying to decide who actually gets to participate in voting. So, I
No, they don't.
mean,
They don't want sponsored rides to. They don't want to have carriers to the
right.
voting polls anymore. Who needs
Mm-hmm.
carriers to voting polls? People
Yeah.
that have medical issues, people that have medical issues, people that elderly. Most elderly people are gonna vote for a Democrat right now. Look, I don't choose to think that
You'd
I'm
hope.
a Democrat or a Republican. I choose to believe that if you are a great candidate and you are about your truth, I'm willing to stand with you, whatever that may be. But you got to be about your truth. You got to show good character. And I think we need to get back to voting that way, right? Like, I don't care about what party it is. Who are you really at your core? Are you a person that's
I
bankrupted
agree that
seven
that's what
companies?
should really matter at the end of the day, but I just can't get around the fact that if you are flying that Republican flag right now, which means that if you are somebody who is co-signing what's been said over these last 4, 8, 12 years, and you're still there even after all we've seen, I could never vote for you. I don't care if you came
No, for
out, you
sure.
looked and sounded like me and everything,
No,
I don't care if we
whoever
were
it
mirror
is.
images of each other and your name was DeAntony Collins, if you came out and you had been doing all of that stuff that I just said, I'm sorry, bro, but I won't be voting for you this time.
But I feel
And
like that
so
about friendship right now. I feel like how
I
can I say I'm
100%
your
agree.
how can we be friends and you be this far past the goalposts? Like, how could you miss that much? I pride myself with being around people who has enough common sense, you know what I mean, to be able to differentiate and discern when they've been lied to. But when you still find it in your selfish heart to go with someone that doesn't have the greatest good for the most amount of people in their intentions, that's a problem. Like, because I believe in utilitarianism. You know what I mean? Like the
Okay.
greatest good for the greatest amount of people. Meaning that if I vote for this guy because of my tax bracket, I might not necessarily get the best part of that pie. But does it help the most of America?
Okay.
Does it help a teacher to make more money a year? Does it help my child to have a better future by me taking this hit right now? I'm okay with
Mm-hmm.
that.
Hmm.
That's the way I look at it. I look at it like, what are you or if you can stand up and say, yeah, we taxing everybody. Unfortunately, you got to all y'all getting taxed. We all getting
Right.
taxed. The big
Yeah.
people too. Them folks
Mm-hmm.
making them bills, they getting taxed. We tearing they all ass up for the next 5 years for the next 4 years because we got to get out of the situation that we in. I respect that more and will vote for that
I
because
respect it even more if they didn't raise ours. Ours been raised enough. Raise theirs.
well, no, not raised.
But I agree with
I'm
you a
just
hundred
saying,
percent.
like if they
Otherwise,
What?
I agree
Hey,
with you otherwise, but don't raise ours anymore. Now
nah, don't raise it no more. Like
we've been
33%,
oppressed
wherever
too
we are,
much.
we up
They
there.
need to
We
catch
up
up.
there.
Honestly, you don't need my little money. You need that
No,
big money. You know
no,
what I
and that's the
mean?
thing. Like, and that's the thing, like, because when Bernie Sanders was looking at running again, that's one of his big things. He was like, look, the middle class is already taxed. It ain't going down, ain't going up, but it's gonna be there. So y'all thinking that it's gonna drop? Nah, we can't do that right now. Just an honest conversation. Give me truth. Give me truth. And if I could look at two candidates and say, okay, this is your truth, this is your truth, which truth do I line up with? Don't tell me now when I can look at you, you know how I know when a person lying? When they start pointing at you talking about what you gonna do.
Hmm. Say more.
Like in debates, when all you focus on is what I'm doing wrong and you not really telling me facts about what you're going to do,
Okay. Okay.
I already know when you do finally tell me something, you're gonna give me a whole bunch of bull. Cause
Hmm.
that's why you keep running over there talking about that. I hate the fact that our political system has gotten to that point in debates. I used to love watching debates when I was a kid, bro. I thought it
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
cool to
Now
listen.
when you get you ask somebody a yes or no question and then they start with this 5-minute answer on, that never
Over
really
there
gives
about
you
what
a
they got
yes or
going
no
on.
question. Yeah, absolutely. They
Yeah, like
nuance you all the
bro.
way down to nothing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. I agree. We it's hard to be able to just have somebody lay their truth out on the table because we don't know if they're telling the truth. I do agree that we should be able to take what a person says, but also we should be able to look at their
Their
record,
history.
whether you have a political record or not. Your record is just being a human being. Were you showing up to work?
Exactly.
Were you being, fair to the people around you? Were you, that kind of thing? Even if you've never been in politics a day in your life, you still have a living record of the things that you have done. And
Bro,
you should
that's
be
the
able to,
quiet part out loud. That's the
yeah,
quiet part out loud right there. If you running and I can look at your whole history, I can see where you've already done things. Like
right.
you can't
Yeah.
tell me
Yeah.
something about your future when your
Yeah.
past is already telling me everything I
Right.
need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't tell me that you're going to bring a country up out of a dark spot if you've only ever filed for bankruptcy.
So
You
true.
can't tell me how good of a businessman you are when a part of your business plan is bankruptcy.
And fraud. The other part is fraud. So 100% agree. And since we're talking about this dude right now, and I hinted to some of the social media posts and stuff that he's made before, let's 518 this a little bit
Okay,
and
okay. Let's go.
let's talk a little bit about this True Social post where Trump posted this AI picture of himself looking like Jesus. What do you think about this? Because it sparked all kinds of reactions. Have you seen this? Have you not seen this yet? It sparked
Yeah, I
all
saw
kinds
it.
of reactions from anybody, the Pope included,
Hey, look,
and he and the Pope now are having this back and forth about this whole thing. So yeah, what do you think about that?
bro, when I saw it, bro, I ain't gonna lie, I just went on past it.
So did you hear what he said when he was asked about it though?
No, I
Did you
didn't. I
hear how
didn't
he
hear what he
justified
said.
it? So what he said was he was asked during the middle of another political stunt. So he had some DoorDash grandma come and deliver McDonald's to the Oval Office now, which was an obvious stunt because you can't just walk up to the White House like this. Not only did she not come up to the White House door, she came up to the Oval Office door, right? He had her come out because he wanted her to co-sign on no tax on tips and how being able to keep more money that she's making and not have it be taxed was helping her pay for other stuff like her husband's cancer treatments. I'm like, are you missing the point here that if she had good health care, she wouldn't need to be working as a retired grandma doing gig work so she could pay for her husband's cancer treatments? But anyway, right after all that foolishness, or in the midst of all that foolishness, a reporter from that pool asked about this thing and asked him, how did he feel about this pushback of, him depicting himself as Jesus and now all the pushback and blowback from it. And he said that only the media could make him say he was trying to be Jesus, that he was thinking that it was a doctor or a Red Cross worker that he was trying to be when he posted that.
For
So
real?
he didn't have anything to do with Jesus or this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I've never seen a doctor or a Red Cross worker in robes before. I ain't never seen none of them with their glowing power coming out of their hands and laying hands on somebody who looks a little bit like Jeffrey Epstein, if you ask me. I don't know if you go back and look at that thing again, but it
Hey,
absolutely, and I'm not the only one. Other people felt like that was
hey, so
Epstein-esque
you
too.
just
But what do
so
you
you
think
thought that it
about
looked
that?
like a Red Cross worker with the Michelangelo style picture?
Come on. So he did. So and that was what he said. I mean, isn't that ridiculous? Wouldn't
My
so
gosh, bro.
immediately folks again started saying his cognition and any cognitive decline that he might have, because it's like you looking at that and you saw doctor, you saw Red Cross worker. If this your honest answer, something might be going wrong with you. So there was a whole lot of Republican pushback. Those same folks who I talked about before, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, all those other folks, they came back out again and was like, what the heck? Now previously he had done something like this before. He put out a post once depicting himself as the Pope after this new American
I
Pope
saw
had
that.
been.
I saw that
Yeah,
too. I
so
saw
it's
that
not
too.
the first time that he has done something like that, and he puts up a lot of those AI things all the time. He's said and done all kinds of ridiculous things in these posts. So now when the blowback to that happened, he took the post down, right? Because it was clear that people, a lot of his supporters too, were really upset about this. He took it down and he posted something else today. You know what it was? It was
What?
a picture of Jesus hugging him. Like you my bro, right? We buddies, right? Me and you.
But see,
And he's like,
he
the
do the type of
radical left
stuff.
won't like this, but my supporters will. It's like, no, they won't.
Bro, he do the type of stuff that is cringeworthy at
It's
best,
so
dog.
cringe,
Like,
bro. It's
it's
so
like, what are
cringe.
you doing? No, the thing is though, I don't think him or JD Vance, I think they talk on the phone about the Pope. I don't think they like each
It's weird because JD Vance just released a book recently where he talked about his conversion to Catholicism. So you would think that if you're literally right now selling a book where you're talking about converting to Catholicism, and who is the head of Catholicism? The Pope. You would think, not to mention that he met the last Pope. He was the last person to see the last Pope before he died. Dude died next day after he met him. So
Hey,
the
that's
odd
right
thing, I
there.
probably
Hey,
wouldn't want to
don't
meet
do
him
it. Don't
myself if
do
I
it.
was the Pope.
Don't do it.
You know,
Don't do it.
but yeah. So I think that they
Uh,
are just, these dudes are posers, man, and they are being found out. I think that he was a crackpot always, but now because of whatever this cognitive decline he has, he can't hide it, and because he put such bad people in power
around here.
around him, they are just catering to his whims, and nobody's saying, hey, put that away, man, don't do that, don't do that. They're letting him do whatever. And I think
Agreed.
for
Agreed.
during his first term, he would have had a few people that said, don't do that, or I'm not
Well,
gonna
that's
let you
why he
do that.
doubled down and made sure to
Right.
get the people in place that he
Exactly.
really. I want somebody that thinks like me in place, and I want somebody that ain't gonna tell me no.
Right. He wanted people that won't tell him no. And so because of that, they are out here looking crazy. They tried to
Yeah,
make
agreed.
cognitive decline stick to Joe Biden, which, any decline Joe Biden was experiencing was just due to age. He didn't have some, all 80-year-old people start to slow down. What we're seeing with Trump is different. Joe Biden was having senior moments. Okay. He might, drop a word or two, but he still understood what the job was. He understood, who the players were. He understood policy. This guy doesn't understand any of that, which is why I think that it is hitting harder, faster than it affected Joe Biden. And people just need to keep up that effort. They're trying to make it seem like it's unfair to talk about his mental fitness when he spent 4 years doing that to somebody unjustly, in my opinion. Now, I will say some of it was just because we did what we saw in that first debate. Broke my heart with Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I will say. But, I never questioned whether or not he understood the job and whether or not he had not put an administration in place that could do the work, because people weren't sitting around having to worry about what he was saying and doing all day. because he had an administration in place that understood what their assignments were. They knew how to run their departments. This guy has a bunch of people whose very job is to wreck everything. So his mental facility and his mental faculty has really been, I think, something that is going to be a key driver moving forward, because we're going to see him jump the shark real soon. With what we're seeing right now, just in the beginning of his second year in his second term, I mean,
Well,
there's a lot of people that are thinking that he may not make it.
I mean, yeah,
And
I've
not
heard you
just
guys.
due to the 25th Amendment or an impeachment post Democrats hopefully winning both houses of Congress, but that maybe, health wise, he might not make it. I don't know.
No, and I to be honest with you, I would never wish death on anybody.
Never,
But
never.
I will say, I'm hoping that we do get to. I'm gonna just leave that alone. Be honest with you, because he's just. I see what you're saying. He reminds me of a person that has dementia. Just kind of the way he jumps around a little bit. But I'm hoping that the next presidential candidates that we have run on both sides of the aisle are no older than like 55, bro. Like
Mhm.
55 years old. I
Yeah.
would love to
Yeah.
have two 45-year-old candidates run, maybe
I stand
42.
with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think that we gotta catch up as a country, and it's gonna take some younger folk who
Yeah. Yeah.
understands the way the country is
Yeah.
moving to
Now
do that.
here's the thing. Did when Biden first ran and he jumped into that primary in 2020, he didn't get my vote. I think that when he came into it, I already felt like if he jumps in, he's going to win the nomination. I voted my conscience. I voted for a different person in that primary. But when he prevailed in getting the nomination, absolutely. I look at who the alternative is. There is no real choice. The choice was clear. And I think the choice is going to be absolutely clear
Who
when
did
we
you
get
vote
to
for in
this
the
next
primary?
election. Elizabeth Warren.
Okay, I'm with you. I voted,
I voted for Elizabeth Warren once in a primary, and then I voted for Bernie once in a primary as well.
I voted for Bernie both times. I felt like I feel like had he won presidency, had he won the primary, I feel like he would have got the presidency in 2020.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know. I mean, we've looked at somebody with his kind of political persuasion win. I mean, Mamdani just won in New York City. He won New York City mayorship, and that's millions of people had to vote for him on that. So, I mean, a lot of
Yeah, yeah,
places, that's like winning a governorship, but New York isn't everywhere, and everywhere isn't popular, large places like, large cities like where you live and like New York City. And like, so a lot of those places aren't like that. And it's hard to think that Bernie would have garnered enough support when they would have tried to hang a Marxist or socialist rap on him. So I was nervous about that, to be
well,
completely
no,
honest.
see,
Would I have supported him for president? Absolutely.
I think the reason he wouldn't have got the support, he wouldn't have got the financial backing because no big companies wanted him to be the president of the United States. No big company anywhere.
He wouldn't have wanted their money to begin with, though. So,
And I think that
but
what
all of those people probably would have joined forces against him, though,
I really
thereby
wanted
making it that much more crazy. I mean, we have too much money in politics as it is,
I wanted so we're on the
and
same
not
page
enough
though, because I
ideas.
wanted him to be the president and I wanted Elizabeth Warren to be his vice president.
And you know what?
Either the
And that
one.
could have very well worked.
Yeah,
I love what Elizabeth Warren has to say about fraud protections and making sure that everybody is getting a even fair shake. I mean, the CFPB, the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau, that Trump is trying to cripple and do away with, she helped bring into existence. She understands about junk fees that, companies try to sell you, like when you're going
yeah,
to buy a plane ticket and they attach all this extra crap onto it,
yeah,
understands that kind of stuff, all the ways that the American people are being fleeced and we can't see it because it's in the bottom lines, and it's in the fine prints, and it's in the, you know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
Somebody who is protecting us from the details we can't see. And, I read her book, This Fight Is Our Fight, when she was becoming a candidate. And I just was like, I think that this is somebody I can trust with that. Now, I know she's had a gaffe or two in her career, but when you're playing at such a high level, that
You're gonna
happens
have
when
them.
and you
Yeah,
have opinions, and when you say things, it becomes news. So,
I felt
was
like
it something
either
that I
one
can
of them.
forgive? Her saying that she was 1/8 or 1/64th, whatever it was, Native American, and she turned out not to be, bro. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? She's
That's
not
not
out
the
here in a
biggest me in the
headdress,
world.
living, trying to own a casino. You know what I'm saying? So that was fine for me, but I felt like she could be somebody that um I would have been proud to be president. Now I voted for Kamala Harris. I supported her nomination as president of the United States. I supported her being vice president. Like I said, the choice is really clear at this point, but I know who I can't support from the Democratic field. If you're coming to me saying, "Hey, let's just wipe the slate clean and everybody come in, pass," I don't want that. There has been some egregious wrongs done, and not only do they need to be set straight, but the people who perpetrated them need to be brought to justice. That is the way that we get national healing, in my point of view. The law has to work for us all. It can't
And
just bring down
I
people
want
on our level.
Democrats.
It has to bring down the people who have systematically and systemically been doing things to us all this time and benefiting from it while we toil and struggle. These people need to be brought to justice.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
definitely want I want Democrats that are running for these seats in Congress and in the House. I want them to be about action. Like
Yeah.
I want people who ain't scared. Like, don't be scared. Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate the professionalism, but I want more Jasmine Crockett's than
Yeah.
I do and I ain't got no problem with Cory Booker. I think he's done some good stuff too. I want more Jasmine Crockett's than I want
Yeah, we
Bookers.
need more action. We need more
Yeah,
action.
so
I
I'm kinda
totally
at
agree
that
with you,
point.
man.
I'm
Yeah, I
at
totally
that
agree
point.
with you. So with that in mind, let's dive a little bit further into some Room 518 before I let you go. Okay, before I let
Okay,
you go,
alright.
let's just give them another little taste. So when we get done with the conversation and we still have a little bit of time, sometimes we'll do a game or some kind of a prompt. So let's do kind of I'm gonna go with this or that. So let's do a quiet loud edition, this or that. All right.
Let's go,
So
let's
we'll do it
go.
real quick. We'll do it real quick. All right. This or that. We get 4 more years of Obama. Certain. He's president again, 4 more years. Or we for certain, the or is for certain Trump gets what's coming to him with everything he's done before, all of his sentencing and stuff before comes back through state charges or whatever, however it works, and then everything he's done since then gets lumped into. He gets what amounts to a life sentence. He's gone. His accomplices get justice too. So they all see justice, or we get 4 more years of Obama.
You suck for this, bro. You suck. Okay, I'm gonna take they all get what they all get what's coming. Obama ain't trying to be president no more. Like he good. He done did his thing. We don't need him to be back there. But we do need to make sure that there's a big example set. What you
Yeah,
mean? Like, yeah,
yeah.
I'm going that. Know this.
Yeah, I say let Obama stay retired as well, and make sure that these guys get what's coming to them. I think, like I said before, for the national healing, man, people need to see the bad guy go down. You know what I mean? I think folks are tired of watching people fail up. You know what I'm saying? While we are struggling, and we're watching so many people struggle to make ends meet, and you're watching people do bad and do ill and keep on getting money and doing well and having more in excess while the people around them who they swear they're working for are, you know, getting smaller and smaller. So yeah, man, I told you it'd be a quick one, but I just wanted to give everybody a taste of what we were doing, man. I so appreciate you for pulling up on this one, man. And I hope that
Oh,
all of our viewer, listener, audience, whoever you are, got something from this, not just the headlines, which we did go into a lot of it, but how it actually hits us every day. And if you want more of this kind of conversation, this kind of dynamic, tap in Room 518. Like I said, it's happening Mondays here on the Quiet Loud channel on YouTube. We are also on Instagram at Room 518 Pod. All right. Therrell, like I said, thanks for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. Anything you want to say, anything you want to tell us before we get out of here?
I apologize about my congestion, guys. I really didn't want this to be my first introduction to you guys, but I hope that you guys absolutely enjoy the episode. Please check out Room 518, man. We don't stay on politics too long. We probably give it like 15 minutes every so often, but just our general conversation is fun. It's sometimes lighthearted, it's sometimes real serious, but we're always trying to push the culture forward. So I appreciate you guys.
All right, man. I thank you so much for coming, man. And as I always say, guys, like, subscribe, join the Quiet Quorum, make comments, share us out. That's the only way that we will continue to grow, and we need to grow. Like Therrell said, this message needs to go out there, and we need to continue to push the culture forward. So as always, stay grounded, stay informed, and stay loud quietly. This is the Quiet Loud. Y'all take care.